The season's first college football playoff rankings are out, and here they are. Movement in the top four. A big surprise, Georgia dropping 2 spots to number 3. Tennessee is now in that top spot. Ohio State still in second. And Clemson, they are now ranked 4th, moving up 1 spot. We bring back college football writer Dennis Dodd and our college football playoff expert Jerry Palm. All right, we see those first 4 guys heading out into week 10. Jerry, did the committee get this right?
Well, I certainly don't think they got it wrong. When I was on earlier, I told you that the top 3 teams were the top 3 teams, and you could justify any order of those rankings. And so those 3 teams are at the top, and I think that's fine. Tennessee at number 1 has the most wins of that group over teams in the poll. So that's a factor that this committee considers. So I have no problem with Tennessee at number 1. I don't really have a problem with Georgia number 3. Those 3 teams, to me, there's a gap between them and the next 4. And then the next 4 you could have ordered in any way. And so I don't have a problem with that either. But so I don't have any trouble with what the committee did here. I think it's all justifiable, at least through 7.
Well, Dennis, for you, as these teams were being announced, were you surprised at the way it all shaped out?
I was surprised they frankly didn't consider TCU. I go back to last year. I think Cincinnati was 12th in the initial poll, so maybe I shouldn't even worry. Things will shake out. It's a disclaimer every year. I tell people 53% of the teams you see on screen aren't going to make it because historically they don't in the first 8 years of this thing. So maybe I'm getting worked up over nothing. But to me, TCU has as good a resume or better than anybody else. They beat 4 ranked teams, not only 4 ranked teams at the time of kickoff, we can argue about that, but in 4 consecutive weeks, one of those on the road, and the last 3 games have come from behind, 2 of those by 17 points. Before they rallied on Saturday down by 7 against West Virginia. Now, you might call that a weakness. I call that a strength. And if we're going to run down TCU and say they're 8th in this group, LSU in 2019 won a national championship with the worst defense ever by a national champion. So you can't say typical old Big 12 team because this is what college football is right now. I was shocked that they're not even in consideration for the top 4.
Well, we do get to buckle up number 1 Tennessee against number 3 Georgia. How lucky are we that game coming our way Saturday on CBS, 3:30 Eastern. Dennis, how much fun are we in for when these two face off between the hedges? And on top of that, what type of long-term impact as we finish the regular season will it have on the winner of this game?
Well, it's going to be great. I just have this nagging feeling that Kirby Smart's been game planning for this since February, that they've been running Tennessee stuff, or at least since August. It looked like Tennessee might be pretty good. And they come out and beat them by 20. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it's a good game. Georgia has its smallest point spread of the season, 8.5. But for the winner, it's clear sailing to the SEC championship game, it would seem. For the loser, especially if it's Georgia, it's still in the running for a playoff spot. And I would think Tennessee as well. It depends on how close the game is and how well they play and how well they show. So I don't think this is the end of the world for either of these squads on Saturday.
Jerry, what about you? What is going to be the standout impact moment for you between Tennessee and Georgia?
Well, the Tennessee-Georgia game, the loser is pretty much out of the SEC conference championship race. So now, even if they finish 11-1, they're going to need help in other places to try and make the college football playoff. And depending on what happens in the other division, if you end up with, say, 12-1 Alabama SEC champion, 12-1 winner of that game, the runner-up, the 11-1 team has almost no chance of making the college football playoff now. So a one-loss team is at the mercy of what's going on in some of these other leagues. And if you've got 3 undefeated teams fighting for 3 spots in the college football playoff, then that 11-1 team is probably not going to make it.
All right, let's expand our scope here for a minute. Jerry, who is a team outside the top 4 that you think has the best chance to make the playoff?
Ooh, I don't know about best chance, but one team that probably nobody is thinking about is Illinois, who's checked in at 16 this week. Illinois has to play at Michigan still. Yeah. If they win the Big Ten, they will have won at Michigan and likely beaten Ohio State. and would be a 12-1 Big Ten champion. I think that that's a pretty strong case for the college football playoff, depending on what other teams do, even though they're coming out of the pretty weak Big Ten West.
Yeah, for me, it's Ole Miss, who, a little secret here, all but controls their own destiny for the playoff. Now, stick with me on this. First of all, Alabama has to win over LSU. Then the next week, Alabama goes to Ole Miss. Ole Miss wins that game. They're going to have to play Georgia or Tennessee in the SEC championship game. And the worst case scenario for Ole Miss is Clemson, TCU, and the Ohio State-Michigan winner being the only undefeated teams left in the country. I don't see how the committee keeps out a 12-1 SEC champion Ole Miss. Now, there's another discussion to be had there about Auburn chasing Lane Kiffin, but I'll leave that for others. Will they hang on for that? But I don't think they leave out Ole Miss. We can argue about whether Ole Miss will win those games, but I think I can make a heck of a case for Ole Miss controlling its destiny now to get to the playoff.
All right, I like it. But all right, let's fast forward now, end of the month, early December. Who are we talking about in the final college football playoff rankings, the top four, Jerry?
Well, I'm going to stick with what I had, which is Georgia #1, Ohio State #2, Clemson #3, and Tennessee at 11-1, #4, which of course will require TCU to get beat and Alabama to get beat again.
Go with what I had. I'm coming into today. Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee, TCU. I'll stick with TCU again. I saw on some metric or another today where they have a 4% chance of winning out. Really? 4%? Texas, Baylor, Iowa State, and who was the other one? Texas Tech. I'll take more than 4% on TCU winning out against those four. As I said, Ohio State winning out, winning the Big Ten, getting there, and then Tennessee losing to Georgia, but still being the second team from the SEC.
A lot of fun football to look forward to, and that's our Jerry Palm and Dennis Dodd breaking down the first college football playoff rankings. Great work, guys. We appreciate it. All right, so who do the odds makers like to be in the final four for the college football playoff rankings? You see it here according to Caesar Sportsbook. Ohio State with the best odds, -650, followed by Georgia, Clemson, and Tennessee. But look, Alabama, -180 to miss the playoffs.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.